Hi all, welcome to this channel. Here we talk about everything that's going on with the COVID-19 pandemic caused by the SARS-CoV-2 virus. In today's video, we'll discuss the United States specifically and look at the state-by-state trends of the COVID-19 situation. As of today, November 20th, 2020, there are 57,365,000 global confirmed cases and over 1,368,000 global deaths. In the United States, there are 11,854,000 confirmed cases and now over 253,000 deaths. We are looking at the Johns Hopkins Coronavirus Resource Center as one of the most reliable sources currently that tracks the coronavirus. So today we will look at the United States specifically. Here you can see a heat map of where coronavirus cases are, especially by population density. Unfortunately, we do see the darker reds in the center of the country, a little bit here in the south and the southeast. Another resource that I talked about in my last video is to look at the 91 DIVOC visualization website. Links to both websites will be in the description below. In the last video, we looked at comparing COVID-19 cases by country, looking at the United States versus the European Union. Today, we go to the next visualization, which looks at COVID-19 cases by U.S. state/territory. So here by default, we see cases highlighted here for the state of California, the largest state in terms of patient population. In terms of population in the United States, and you can clearly see that California hit a peak in this July to almost September timeframe, and then has come down, but most recently has re-emerged, and now having over 10,000 new cases per day, which now surpasses the prior peak in the summer timeframe. We can also look at other states. For example, New York is another highly populated state. So New York saw the initial wave back in late March, April, hitting almost 10,000 new cases per day, and then really coming down and pretty well contained throughout the summer months. However, as New York now enters November, the cases have now increased back up to around 5,000 new cases a day. Let's look at Texas, which is the second most populous state in the nation. So Texas was quite modest in the beginning, all the way until late June to July, where it did peak at over 10,000 new cases per day. It has come down some into the fall with a slight resurgence in late September, and now is also climbing back to its original peak of over 10,000 new cases per day, now in the month of November. So this visualization is good to see the trends of some of the large states in terms of overall population. It does not account for the populations by state as well as the population density. So there is a better look at this, which is new confirmed COVID cases per day by US state/territory, and now this is normalized by population. So for example, California has around 40 million people in the state as the most populous state in the nation. Texas comes in at number 2 at around 30 million people, and New York number 3 at around 20 million people. This chart gives you a sense of the new daily confirmed cases per 1,000 people. So for less populous states, it shows how many people, given every 100,000 people, are developing positive tests for the coronavirus. So let's just look at a couple states. We have California here. We can add a couple states. Let's add Texas as the second most populous state. And we'll add New York. And for contrast, what we have been hearing lately in the news are the Dakotas, North Dakota, South Dakota. So looking at new cases per day, now normalized by population, you can animate this and see how the trends were going. So back in March, going into April, we all remember New York had the large spike. And we see New York really growing in that time frame, hitting a peak of about 50 new cases per every 100,000 people. And we remember from the news that hospitals were overrun, and it was a really difficult time for New Yorkers. Going into May and into June, those numbers were able to come down, and New York has had a relatively quiet summer in terms of COVID-19. During this time, you see California and Texas have been holding pretty steady, although slight increases, now into roughly 5 per 100,000 people new cases. South Dakota did see a couple small spikes at 15 per 100,000 people, and North Dakota, in around that same time frame, went up to about 10 new cases per 100,000 people. Now going into the summer months of July, you see now Texas and California have drastically increased, as this was likely their first wave for both those states. North Dakota and South Dakota continue to be somewhat low, although North Dakota was increasing a bit during this time into August, catching up, getting closer to that of California. Texas showed a peak of around 35 new cases per 100,000 people in the mid-July timeframe. During this time, California was dealing with their major wave in the summer, and North Dakota was seeing quite a bit of increase in those summer months from July through August and September. South Dakota really saw things pick up starting in the late August timeframe. And during this entire time, New York continues to stay relatively low in less than 5 new cases per 100,000 people. Going into September, both North Dakota and South Dakota have now surpassed 35 new cases per 100,000 people, while Texas and California saw some reprieve and were able to come down to around the 10 new cases per 100,000 people area. As we approach October, we are seeing continuing growth in both North Dakota, South Dakota, and now a bit in Texas. Texas was able to drop after about a week or two, while North Dakota and South Dakota continue to climb. Now, as we get into the middle of October, cold weather starts hitting the nation. More people are spending more time indoors, and we're seeing the cases in North Dakota and South Dakota continue to skyrocket through the middle of October. At this time, both California and New York were in discussions, depending on the part of the state, of reopenings, school reopenings, and in-person learning. However, as we now move into late October, early November, this is where we're starting to see cases climbing throughout all of the 5 states that we see here, and for most of the states within the United States. Getting into November, North Dakota and South Dakota are now approaching 140 new cases per 100,000 people per day, the highest ever in their states, as well as normalized by population for any state in the nation. And now, as we approach to current day, both North Dakota and South Dakota continue to rise and are in the highest new cases per day by capita, but normalized by population, with North Dakota at almost 180 new cases per 1,000 people. South Dakota saw a recent dip, but around 140 to 160 new cases per 100,000 people. And both Texas and California, as well as New York, have been on the increase to around 40 new cases per 100,000 people for Texas, and around 30 or so, 20 to 30 new cases per 100,000 people for California and New York. So the other metric we could look at is new deaths, and these are 1-week averages. And you can see the green here is New York, with their initial spike at getting close to 7 new deaths per 100,000 people per day. That has drastically come down over time. And while cases are quickly on the rise, deaths usually follow by a few weeks. And we are seeing that trend in South Dakota and North Dakota at just around 2 new deaths per day per 100,000 people. And for the most populous states of Texas, New York, and California, they are under between 0 and about half a death per 100,000 people, although these states are quite populous. So even though the death rates seem low, in absolute number of people, they are quite high, given that these states are the three largest states in the United States. That's it for this video. I hope this was helpful to understand at a state level the different trends that we are seeing. Thanks for watching. Please stay safe, wash your hands, social distance, and wear a mask. We're all in this together. Thank you.